There used to be a straightforward deal between a truck owner and their dealer. Something breaks, you bring it in, they fix it. A Ram 1500 owner brought his truck in for the Hemi tick, the faint idle noise that had been getting slightly louder over 3 months. On the second day, the service advisor called to say the disconnecting pin on 3 of his lifters was misaligned. According to Ram, that is not a defect. They sent him home. That advisor was not guessing. Ram has sent every dealership in the country a technical service bulletin, an internal repair document legally required to be made public, that instructs technicians not to replace MDS lifters when the disconnecting pin is misaligned. Their exact language was, not a defect. That bulletin covers the 2019, 2021, 2022, and 2023 Ram 1500 models. The dealer did not send that owner home because they could not find the problem. Ram told them in writing to leave it alone. This video covers 5 factory default settings that are accelerating that damage right now, and what to change before you end up in that waiting room. By the end, you will know exactly which settings to change, which require a specific fix versus a habit adjustment, and what Ram's own owner manual says about the transmission failure they documented and then designed the truck to forget. Setting number 5, Eco Mode used during heavy driving. The Eco Mode button on your Ram 1500 center console tells the truck computer to chase fuel economy above everything else. The transmission shifts into the highest gear it can reach and stays there. Throttle response gets dulled. The MDS cylinder deactivation system that shuts 4 of your 8 cylinders down during cruising runs more aggressively than in any other mode. That combination works on a flat highway with no load. The moment you add a grade, a headwind, a trailer, or a loaded bed, Eco Mode stops being a fuel saver and starts being a heat source. On the transmission side, holding overdrive when the engine needs to downshift generates heat in the clutch packs. These are the friction discs inside the ZF 8-speed transmission, about the size of a carry-on bag bolted directly behind the engine. Heat breaks down the fluid that protects those clutch packs. A fluid service runs $250 to $350. A rebuild on the ZEF starts at $4,000. Every situation where you are adding load, like towing a trailer, driving up a grade, stop-and-go city traffic, or facing a headwind on the highway, is a situation where Eco Mode is working against the transmission. The fuel savings at the pump do not survive the repair bill. Setting number 4. Auto Stop, Start, Left, Enabled. Every time your Ram shuts off at a red light and fires back up when you lift your foot off the brake, something happens to your engine that Ram does not put in the marketing materials. On Ram 1500s, without the mild hybrid system, the traditional starter motor engages, the flywheel takes the impact, and the engine turns over before oil pressure has time to build. On 2019 and newer trucks with the e-Torque mild hybrid system, a belt-integrated electric motor about the size of a large alternator, driven by the serpentine belt across the top of the engine, handles restarts instead of the starter motor. But here is what is the same on both. Every time the engine stops and restarts, oil pressure drops momentarily before it rebuilds. Cam phasers are the hydraulic actuators that control valve timing in the Hemi cylinder head, and they are about the size of a hockey puck. They depend on that oil pressure to hold position on every restart. 60 restarts a day, every day. The phasers are cycling through a pressure drop each time. The system resets to enabled every time you start the truck. Ram designed it that way because EPA fuel economy certification requires it. Your Ram remembers your seat position, your mirror angle, and your radio station every single time you start the truck. It does not remember that you turned off Auto Stop Start. That is not an accident. The button is on the center console. Press it every drive. If pressing it every morning is the habit that stands between you and a $400 battery, and the where you cannot see your price until later, the Auto Stop Eliminator module is worth the $75 to $100 it costs. It plugs into the truck's electrical system and remembers your preference permanently. Setting number 3. MDS cylinder deactivation left enabled. This is the one that connects directly to the cam and lifter failure, the last video covered in detail. The multi-displacement system, Ram's name for the cylinder deactivation technology built into every 5.7 Hemi since 2009, shuts down cylinders 1, 4, 6, and 7 during light cruising. Your V8 becomes a V4. Ram's stated purpose is fuel economy. Their actual engineering reality is more complicated. Each MDS lifter is a cylindrical steel housing about the size of a large marker that rides against the camshaft. The rotating steel shaft, roughly the diameter of a thick hiking pole, that runs the full length of the engine block. Inside each lifter housing is a needle bearing, a roller barely wider than a match head that rides against the cam lobe, a teardrop-shaped steel protrusion that pushes the lifter upward every time a valve opens. That needle bearing is the failure point. At highway speed, oil reaches those bearings adequately. At idle, at a long stoplight, in a drive-through, or warming up in the driveway on a cold morning, that lubrication is insufficient. The needle bearings run on less oil than they were designed to sustain over 100,000 miles. Eventually, one of those needle bearings seizes, and when it does, the lifter stops rolling and starts grinding, dragging across the cam lobe instead of riding it cleanly. That lobe, originally machined to a precise curved profile, gets worn flat by a component that was supposed to glide across it thousands of times a day. At some point, cylinder 5 throws a misfire code, and that is usually when the owner finds out for the first time that this was already in progress, and that Ram had already told every dealer in writing not to touch the part that caused it. Before someone raises the obvious question, does disabling MDS cut off lubrication to those lifters entirely? The short answer is no, and here is why that matters. Disabling MDS with the proper tune replaces those MDS lifters with conventional units that use the standard oil path from the crankshaft. You are not removing lubrication. You are removing the failure mode and replacing it with the system that works on every other V8 engine that does not have a cylinder deactivation problem. If you have already paid for this repair, drop the number below. Just the number. I want to see what this is actually costing people. The setting I am going to cover next is the one that costs you nothing to use, and is documented in Ram's own owner manual as protecting against transmission failure. Most owners have it turned off every single drive. At the end of this video, you are going to walk away with a specific list of what to do, what to say, and what to verify, based on whether you are an owner with no symptoms, an owner who is already hearing something, or someone evaluating a used truck right now. Hold on through the last setting. Setting number 2. Tow haul mode left off during normal driving. Ram's own owner manual contains this sentence. Pressing the tow haul switch will improve performance and reduce the potential for transmission overheating or failure due to excessive shifting. That language is Ram's, not a forum opinion, not an independent mechanic's take. It is the document Ram gives you when you drive off the lot. The tow haul mode changes how the ZF 8-speed transmission manages gear selection. In normal mode, the transmission chases the highest gear it can find to protect fuel economy numbers, which means constant hunting, upshift, downshift, upshift again. Every time load conditions change, on a hill, in a headwind, or in stop-and-go traffic. Every one of those unnecessary shifts generates heat in the clutch packs, the same friction discs that cost $4,000 to rebuild when the fluid protecting them breaks down. Ram's own owner manual documents the consequence, and then Ram engineered the mode to turn off every single time you start the truck. The tow haul switch must be pressed each time the engine is started. Ram knew the mode needed to reset for emissions compliance, and they knew the consequence of owners forgetting it. They documented both. They changed nothing. A Ram 1500 diesel forum owner 2017 model, approximately 75,000 miles, documented what happens when you run the truck hard without tow haul mode. He drove a delivery route, stop and go every day, and 2.5 years in the clutches were burnt through. The ZAEF started slipping into what felt like neutral for a beat before finally finding the next gear. And the only way to get the transmission to behave again was to run tow haul permanently, even empty, just to hold the shifts together. The fluid service that might have extended those clutch packs costs $250. The rebuild he was heading toward starts at $4,000 and climbs from there. Every situation where that transmission is hunting for a gear, city traffic, a grade, a headwind, anything on a trailer, is a situation where tow haul mode is the difference between $250 and $4,000. High mileage Ram owners on the forums who run it full time are not wrong. Setting number 1. Cummins 6.7 exhaust brake left off. This one is for diesel owners only. If you have the 5.7 Hemi gas engine, jump ahead to the action section. If you are running the Cummins 6.7 diesel, the exhaust brake controls adjustable vanes inside the turbocharger housing. When you leave it off during normal driving, those vanes sit in one position for hours. Carbon builds up in the tight spaces between them. Eventually they seize. When they seize badly enough, you are looking at a complete turbo assembly replacement, $2,500 to $3,000, because Cummins does not sell just the actuator as a standalone OEM part. Turn the exhaust brake on, and leave it on during normal driving, not just for towing. The owners who never have this problem are the ones who never gave the carbon a chance to settle. What I cannot get past is not that these systems fail. It is that the documentation showing you how to prevent the failure exists inside Ram's own service records and their own owner manual, and none of it is on the window sticker. The tow haul section says the transmission can overheat without it. The MDS technical service bulletins tell dealers not to replace the components contributing to lifter failure. The ZEF 8-speed fluid specification points you to a product Ram's owner manual calls a lifetime fill, a claim that directly contradicts ZF's own recommendation of a fluid change every 60,000 miles. All of that is in writing. You just had to know where to look. Most people talking about Ram truck reliability frame this as a quality problem. I think that is the wrong frame. These are documented patterns inside Ram's own communications, paired with default settings that reset every time you start the truck, and marketing language that never quite tells you why. That is worth understanding before the bill arrives, not after. Here is what to do right now depending on where you are. No symptoms yet. Turn eco mode off whenever you are under any kind of load. Enable tow haul every time you start the truck, city driving included. Press the stop-start button every drive, or put $60 to $100 into the auto stop eliminator. Before 60,000 miles, have your ZF transmission fluid and filter serviced with ZF Lifeguard 8. And if your truck sits in the 2009 through 2016 window, have the MDS conversation with an independent Mopar specialist before that mileage, not after. That conversation costs nothing. The repair it prevents costs several thousand. Already hearing something, do not let a service counter tell you it is just how the Hemi sounds. That response was written into Ram's customer service training in 2009, and it has not changed. Before any repair order is written, get an independent Mopar specialist's eyes on it. Be specific. You want to know about updated needle bearing lifters and whether a non-MDS camshaft is on the table. That combination closes the window. A stock parts repair on the same worn design does not. Buying used right now, the inspection is not optional. It is the price of not getting someone else's repair bill. You want a cold start recording with the engine at idle before it warms up, a compression test specifically on cylinder 5, and a visual on both exhaust manifolds for the broken bolt pattern. A truck carrying that failure undiagnosed is a materially different purchase than one where that work is already behind it. The seller has no obligation to tell you which one you are buying. The inspection tells you, People spend $60, $70, sometimes $80,000 on a Ram 1500. And the information in this video was available the entire time inside service bulletins and owner manuals that nobody hands you at delivery. None of that is secret. It is just not convenient. If this channel is putting it somewhere more convenient, that is the reason to subscribe.